Have you ever watched an action movie, seen an impossible prison break, and just scoffed to yourself, yeah, right, that only happens in the movies? Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're wrong. Because some people in the real world make Hollywood screenwriters look like they lack imagination. Some real-life criminals are so audacious, they make movie producers want to bow down in respect and maybe take some notes. Today, we're not talking about John Wick or Dominic Toretto. We're talking about a real person, a French gangster named Redoine Faïd, who decided to turn his life into a blockbuster and prison his own personal film set. Redoine Faïd wasn't your average petty thief or neighborhood thug. He considered himself an artist, and his chosen medium was armed robbery. Born and raised in the rough suburbs of Paris, Faïd's childhood wasn't filled with fairy tales. It was filled with American action movies. He was addicted to them, especially gangster films. But he didn't just watch them, he studied them. He saw Al Pacino in Scarface as his mentor and Robert De Niro in Heat as his career guide. He analyzed every scene, every plan, every line of dialogue. While other kids were learning math and science, Redoine Faïd was learning how to plan a bank heist to be as professional and cinematic as possible. And he applied what he learned. Faïd's youth was a series of daring, meticulously staged robberies that felt like they were ripped straight from a script. He famously used masks of politicians wearing his heists, a detail that was both ironic and incredibly theatrical. His career skyrocketed, and of course, what goes up must eventually come down. He got caught. But for someone who sees life as a movie, prison is merely a plot twist. In 2011, after being granted parole for good behavior, Faïd did something nobody expected. He wrote his memoir. The book was called Robber: From the Slums to Big-Time Crime. He went on television, appeared on talk shows, spoke of his past mistakes, promised he was a changed man, and of course, promoted his book. He talked about how movies had ruined his life, how he'd seen the error of his ways. The French public was captivated. A handsome, well-spoken criminal who seemed genuinely remorseful. What an inspiring story. What they didn't know was that he wasn't just promoting a book, he was casting for the sequel to his life story. Just 2 years later, in 2013, the reformed man Redoine Faïd was back in prison. And this time, he decided to stage a truly impressive comeback. He blasted his way through 5 prison doors using smuggled explosives, took 4 guards hostage, and simply vanished. The entire country of France was stunned. The man, model citizen from TV, was now the nation's most wanted man. After a few weeks on the run, he was captured again. This time, the French authorities were sure there won't be a third time. Oh, but they were wrong. And this brings us to the masterpiece, the action epic of 2018, directed and starring Redoine Faïd himself. The setting, Real Prison, one of the most secure facilities in France. Our protagonist is serving a 25-year sentence. It seems the story is over. But Faïd was a die-hard fan of the movie Heat. And in that film, Robert De Niro's character has a rule. Don't get yourself attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. For Faïd, prison was that thing. Sunday morning, July 1st, 2018, a clear Paris sky. Inside the prison's visitor room, Redoine Faïd is chatting with his brother. A peaceful morning just like any other. Suddenly, the roar of engines echoed across the prison yard. A helicopter appeared, flying dangerously low, and landed squarely in the courtyard, the one area of the prison that for some godforsaken reason was not covered by anti-helicopter nets. From the chopper, 2 men in black, armed with Kalashnikov-style assault rifles, jumped out. They moved like special forces. One stood guard while the other ran to the visitor room and using an industrial-grade power grinder, tore the door apart. The whole thing took less than 10 minutes. It happened so fast, the guards barely had time to process what was happening. Not a single shot was fired inside the prison. No one was hurt. It was clean, efficient, and terrifyingly effective, like a scene straight out of a Michael Mann film. Faïd's brother, who was in the visitor room, appeared to be part of the plan. Faïd was freed. All three climbed into the helicopter and they took off, disappearing before the entire prison security system could even react. The escape was over in less time than it takes to make a cup of coffee. This was a massive slap in the face for the French authorities. The nation's public enemy number one, a man famous for his crazy schemes, had outsmarted them again with an unbelievable script. The behind-the-scenes story was even more incredible. The rescue team had hijacked a helicopter pilot, held him at gunpoint, and forced him to fly to the prison. After completing the mission, they released the terrified pilot, set the helicopter on fire to destroy evidence, and hopped into a waiting getaway car. It was a perfect plan from A to Z. It was later discovered that for months, drones had been flying over the prison, scouting locations, camera angles, and timings, just like a film director scouting a location for a major scene. All of France was thrown into a massive manhunt. Redoine Faïd's face was on every news channel. He became a legend, a ghost. People were terrified, but also a little bit impressed by his sheer audacity and bravado. He had proven that with enough daring and a little inspiration from Hollywood, nothing was impossible. But there's one way real life differs from the movies. In the movies, the anti-hero can escape and live happily ever after on some tropical island. But in real life, the end is rarely so kind. After 3 months on the run, living in fear, and constantly moving, Redoine Faïd and his crew were caught. Not in a blazing gunfight, not in a thrilling car chase. The police found him hiding in a normal apartment in the very neighborhood where he grew up. The movie superstar was arrested in his pajamas, a rather anticlimactic ending for such a spectacular film. Redoine Faïd is now facing a new, much longer sentence in a prison that most certainly has anti-helicopter nets over every square inch. His story raises an ironic question. Where is the line between being inspired by art and being dangerously delusional? Faïd turned his life into a movie, but in the end, he forgot the most basic rule. In the real world, there are no sequels for the losers. Was he a criminal genius with the mind of a director, or simply an obsessed fan who took things too far? A dangerous dreamer who couldn't tell the difference between the silver screen and reality. And perhaps the bigger question for all of us is this: if you had the chance, would you dare to live a life as dramatic as a movie, even knowing that at the end of the film, you might not be the one who wins?